Whatever they're really called doesn't matter to me. I'll shorten them or lengthen them, sometimes switch the letters around or add a Y, change them altogether. Anything that means I've taken the word apart and made it whole again. Anything that might help me remember why my name got smashed up with pure Mary all those years ago. Chapter 2. An I Causes Chaos. "So, which name will you choose?" he asked. "Katrina," I said. "Katrina?" I pointed at a faded newspaper on the coffee table, at the headline that read, "Hurricane Katrina hits," and the picture of the devastation it had caused, black, white and grey chaos. The column alongside had a colour picture of Paris Hilton emerging from a car, her silver dress blinking in the flashlights, and visible crotch discoloured by a ring of coffee. "Good choice," said Norman, his eyes still on the stain. "Memorable. We're off to a great start, Katrina." In this airless room of telephones, notepads and mismatched chairs, Norman would decide if I could stay, if I could be a volunteer. I imagined other interviewees might feel possessive about their names, might argue that they couldn't answer to anything else. Our first names are the one constant in our lives, travelling with us wherever we go, stamped in black on our passports and credit cards and driving licenses. But I liked the idea of choosing who I could be, of starting anew. "We change them so we're unique," Norman said, "so we're easily identified for an urgent call." "Suits me," I said, and wanted to add, I rarely call people by their given name. I'd only known Norman's for 15 minutes and wondered why he'd chosen one that evoked a psychotic serial killer. Perhaps his real name was in honour of a long-dead relative. He wore a red t-shirt with Sesame Street's Bert and Ernie on the front, their faces creased when he reached for the file bearing the name everyone calls me. A photo of my sullen face was stapled to the top by my furrowed forehead. "I'm the only Norman here, so I got to keep my name," he said. So he hadn't picked it. His parents had, many years before. "Some volunteers choose a relative or family pet's name. Some opt for a film star, although callers might not take a Joaquin too seriously." "Especially if they're speaking to a female," I said. "Quite." He stirred his coffee and tapped the spoon on the rim of his mug before placing it on the desk, parallel to my folder. "We don't want names to eclipse why we're here. Take you, Catherine. We already have a Catherine, but she doesn't have an I in her name. On paper, we could differentiate between you, but on the phone, well, imagine the confusion." Norman held his hands in the air to animate the chaos my name with its I might cause. Behind him was a sash window, with one shutter hanging perilously by a single hinge and the other fastened across the glass, giving a half view of the street, overgrown gardens dusted with snow, fat hedges and fir trees. "We also have a Jane, who's the only one," he said. "Chris number 2 we call Christopher, Sam is really Sam, but Paul is Al because we had another Paul who left after his leg never healed, you see?" Maybe," I mumbled. "Flood crisis is about sacrifice," he said, "and it starts with our names." The area behind us looked popular. Colourful chairs and beanbags surrounded a centrally placed, stubby formica table. Much-thumbed magazines covered its scratched surface, and on top, a Barbara Cartland novel lay face down, as though she was burying her head in shame at a bad review. "So, were you flooded?" Norman asked. It was the question we all asked one another. It had replaced inquiring after health or families. "Yes," I said. "Is that why you volunteered?" "No. It wasn't, not really. It was because of a flyer and a child's slipper. I'd been buying wine in a supermarket and found a tiny silver shoe in my trolley, utterly at odds with my other items. When I went to hand it in at the customer service desk, the flood crisis flyer fluttered into my trolley, landing next to the slipper. The young girl on the desk said, "There's a sign from above, if ever I saw one." I'd buried it at the bottom of my bag beneath